Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Monday night presentation show, whatever you want to call it. So, you are going to notice that I am with my friend, Rachel Scherr. And so, Rachel and I know each other from our coaching training, and she's a friend and a colleague. And so, I just knew that at some point I needed to bring Rachel into the conversations that we have on Monday nights because I think that she has an incredible amount to offer us. So just so you know a little bit about Rachel, so she's a global career development expert and coach, right? This is what she does. She has worked in higher education and career services for 13 years, and her passion is just to prepare future leaders because, you know, every one of us, every one of them, we're trying to find our success and our meaning in our professions, and that's what she's passionate about. So right now, Rachel honors her values of flexibility and creativity and collaboration, which I have seen all of these in practice through her new coaching venture. And what she really focuses on is just helping people, helping professionals adopt career wellness, which I love this term, and I had not heard about it, by the way, Rachel, until you presented it to me. So this career wellness mindset, because that idea of success is very different. It is like a fingerprint for each person. So it's about finding what success and meaning means to each person. So yeah. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Dahlia. I'm so excited to be here today and be here with your community. And that is exactly what we're going to talk a little bit about is just building your own career community. You may have heard it be spoken about in terms of like building your own board of advisors or board of directors for your own career advancement. But I like to call it building your own career community. And yeah, and Dahlia, you said it great. I am just so passionate about helping people feel fulfilled in their jobs and, in essence, be well and healthy in their careers. And excited to be here today with you and talk a little bit about how people can build their own career communities through the lens of their own fulfillment and ensuring their values are aligned. So yeah, excited to get the conversation started.
I mean, the reason why this topic was like really interesting to me was because we're all working so hard right now. We're all working so hard. We're balancing um, friends and family, and some people have kids, and so that phrase of like career wellness,
Mhm.
that it seems like that's like this budding, really necessary concept for people to contemplate, and an aspect of that seems to be their career community. So tell us a little bit
Absolutely.
more.
Sure. So and you just hit the nail on the head there. So, when a year ago, many of us started working remotely, and one of the things that really brought me joy and filled me with happiness and fulfillment was meeting people for coffee and lunch. I had the privilege of working in New York City, and it was really easy, right? I stayed in touch with people. I was energized by these conversations. I'd go back to my office and think about new ideas. That whole community shut down a year ago, right? And I was left sitting in this room in my house, no connections to people unless I reached out via email, right? Or text, which felt not authentic to me. And I was left sitting here with my daughter, who was 8 months old at the time, balancing my job at home, coming back from maternity leave, and my boss had just left me after 8 years, and my connection to my career community was broken. Right, I didn't have these people that I'd relied on for so many years. So fast forward 6 months later, I finally realized this. Right, I been through our coaching training program, and I said, whoa, I need to reinvest in my career community. I got to repair these broken connections. And so for the last 6 months, I've been really intentional about how I use this group of people, how I connect with them in the virtual space,
Mhm.
and how I can serve them and how they can serve me in helping me, advance my career, just support me in my day to day. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. So that's a little bit about why I'm so passionate about this and how it sort of ties to my overall wellness and feeling good, right? Feeling healthy in my career. And just real quickly, what is a career community, right?
That'll be helpful.
A career community is a group of people, very simply, who are invested in your own career advancement, wellness, progression, transition, whatever your goals are, but a group of people that you decide on that are there for you, and that you build relationships with over time.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking that this is something that actually seems to be really powerful in a lot of realms for people, right? So right now we're focusing on the career. I was just thinking about anybody who's gone through any major life change, right? So who's in your corner? Who's in, whether you're going through divorce, whether you are working through a diagnosis or something, to have the people who are looking out for you can be just like strengthening, really just strengthening.
Yeah. You made me just think of something, Dahlia, that in a lot of other areas in your life, these sort of ideas of a community come together really naturally, right? You have friends and family and your spiritual community, maybe your health and wellness community. You go to, a
Yeah,
gym, you have
yoga,
a,
yeah.
yeah, totally. And, a lot of times these communities sort of come together. In the professional world and in your career, it's often thought of that you're on your own to advance, right? Or to change. And this idea that you are intentional about bringing people together to support you
Mhm.
is, I think, something that's just starting to develop, and that certainly newer professionals should be spending the time doing now. Because as you grow your career, and I'll share here, the average career right now is going to be 60 to 70 years, which is crazy to think about, right? But you're going to need that same community that gets you through certain life situations. You're going to need that for your own career. So yeah, it totally makes a lot of sense.
So like one of the things that is kind of percolating for me is so what's the difference between a career community and like a mentor? Like who, because I think that for me, what I thought of going forward was like, oh, I just need a mentor, right?
Right.
So what's the difference? How is that? How do they overlap?
So I'll share one macro reason why mentorship is amazing and it serves a true purpose. But in the world of work today, right? People change jobs every 4.5 years. They
Mhm.
also have to reskill and get new skills to even do their current job, every 5 years, because our industries, our technology is changing at such a rapid pace. All of that sounds super stressful,
Oh,
and
it
it
does.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is, right? Um, and so we're left with the idea that one person is supposed to help you navigate that all of these changes, right? All of these opportunities, all of these setbacks. And that's just not feasible in today's world of work, right? So instead of investing your time in a formal one mentor, who also, quite honestly, that's a lot for a person to shoulder, right? If you say to someone, will you be my mentor? That's a lot. That's a lot for a person to take on. Whereas the career community is a group of people that you go to in much more informal fashion. And people in your career community, you can have really diverse perspectives, and you can have reasons why you go to certain ones of them, certain times in your career, and maybe you work with them, you get advice from them, but it's not this forever type of relationship. And your career community can ebb and flow. So it's just gives you, and aligns with my value of flexibility, it gives you a lot more flexibility to define what you need for your career, because everybody's going to go through different changes and ups and downs, throughout their long career tenure. So I just like the idea of career community more so than mentorship, because it really does give you those values of flexibility and to define what you need out of those relationships.
You the What you made me think of was, right. So I'm imagining somebody who is experiencing like some sort of pressure in whatever their career is right now, and it's something that they've never encountered before. It's something that they're like pretty sure that whoever trained them didn't encounter either, and so it can feel like you are in this stuck place.
Yeah.
And if you think of it rather as a career community, then you're like, okay, so who do I need to add to my community? Like
Yes.
who might I go to for this new information, for this new insight, for this guidance? And so it takes you from kind of this hopeless feeling of being stuck to now this like empowered, like curiosity, flexibility. That's kind of what's striking me.
And just building on that, you can ask yourself a couple questions today after today's session of who energizes me when I talk to them, right? Who makes me feel like I'm living my professional values?
Mhm.
Those are the people that you want in your career community. And you want to ask who inspires me, because we're going to get to in a second who actually
Right.
these folks are, but who inspires me? And who do I gain energy from when I see them doing their work? And also, especially as we think about hard decisions that we have to make in our career, who do I admire for their own values and the way they've approached delicate and sensitive situations? And again, those are the people that you can turn to, like you were saying, when maybe you are faced with that tough decision of, you know, whether it's something that you have to decide for a team or yourself or your organization. So yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of who's missing from those voices just as much as who should be part of those voices.
Right. And one of the things that actually just like kind of crossed my mind is, right. So I'm an extrovert. I actually like going out and meeting people and talking to them. That's not for everyone. So how do you need to know the people? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, I want to say one thing here. The career community is something that is going to build naturally and over time.
Ah.
So I actually tell people, don't even tell the folks that you have in career community that they're part of it, right? It's sort of awkward, right? You're not going to
Number four.
right, exactly, right? Will you be on my career community? No, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is start to look around at the people you already know and who you admire and respect. This could be a friend, a colleague, a friend of a friend,
Mhm.
a former manager or supervisor. It could be an alum from one of your educational experiences, because they already might know of some of your background. It could be, somebody who you met through even a networking event once, right? But you really were inspired by their work. So start looking at people you already know. Then, especially as we're sitting here in the virtual space, it's a great time to reach out and say, what have you been up to? How have you been? Right? Asking them and checking in with them, and then asking them maybe for a little bit of advice or guidance because you're dealing with something, instead of actually saying, will you be part of my career community? Right. And then the second group of people is people that you may know through someone else. And I want to give a really good example here. So I met a woman years ago at a conference, and she told me that she was getting ready to quit her job and go live in Europe and do some career consulting on the side. First of all, I was like, oh my God, you're going to Europe and living. I want to be your friend. I think we connected on LinkedIn, but we never really spoke after that. Fast forward 2, 3 years later, I realized that she'd joined an organization where she was helping people build teams in the remote work environment. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. This is so something I might want to do in the future. But I feel so weird reaching out to her. Like we spoke once at a conference. Like,
I'm
it's
the creepy person.
yeah. And I'm also like, I sound probably very extroverted right now, but this is taking a lot of energy for me to do this, right? Just to be transparent, I am a little bit introverted that like I do like my quiet time. So for me to reach out to like someone I met once doesn't really jive with me. But I did it and I pushed myself and I wrote her a LinkedIn message. And her and I have connected 3 or 4 times since being remote and being virtual. And I consider her part of my career community now. I talk to her about her work. She helps connect me, just says, hey, I know you're interested in coaching in the virtual space. Have you thought of this person? So, I really advise people to step outside of your comfort zone. Ask yourself, what is holding me back? What is that block? And maybe spend a little time actually exploring what that block is.
Mhm.
And then, set a goal for yourself to actually do the hard work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think that like what's really powerful about what you're saying is you gave us this very concrete example of taking that step, which feels very big. Like it
Mhm.
feels, and we kind of have these, we call them gremlins, right? These like, she's going to think you're weird. Like that's just a voice in your head. She may actually be really flattered. She may have remembered you and you may have said something that intrigued her, right? There are like so many different ways of seeing like what could happen. And the truth is we can't predict the future.
Right, right. And I also think, and this is maybe a question for you too, is how do you think people can work on those blocks, right, to get to this greater career satisfaction? And I think that's sort of the work that, is so valuable with a coach is, sometimes it's, you don't even know what that block is, right? Like what is holding me back from really building that career community? Or, what messages am I telling myself that probably are not my truth, right? Um, so I think about that a lot as well. And those are all things I feel like, you and I know this, but that you can really explore and dig deeper with a coach.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I think that sometimes if we did this, if we looked back at other times in our lives where we felt held back or we felt completely terrified of what was going to happen, and then life just happened because it has to. It's going to keep going. Like,
Right.
what would we tell ourselves?
Well,
What would we? Hi, Martine. Okay. Martine, this is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
And the internet.
nice to see you.
Um, so
But I think you said something really interesting there. Like, what would be the messages we tell ourselves? And I think this is really where like some visioning can be really powerful, right? How can you vision who is part of this community? And
sure.
I actually have thought about creating like a mood board or some type of inspiration board with these people, as part of it, right? And maybe that brings us to who should actually be part of it, because each
Yeah.
person play a different role. But it really is about thinking, who is there to support me and champion me, because we are at a place in the world of work that unless you do that work for yourself, no one is going to do it for you. It is very rare today that somebody comes up to you, whether it be at your desk or at a client site, wherever your work takes you, and say, Dahlia, you're ready for that promotion, right? What we see on TV, what we think the world of work is, it just isn't, right? And it is a lot of this self-reflection work. It's a lot about surrounding yourself with a career community that can champion for you. And that's where the time and energy needs to be spent.
it- you know, so I'm thinking about, you and I were actually talking about the book Women Don't Ask,
Mm.
or actually I listened to the book Ask for It. You recommended it and I listened to it. I forget, it's like Linda Baker or something. I don't remember who wrote it, but just, we're not just talking about women here, but the concept of like no one's going to just magically give you that promotion. It's going to take you thinking things through and reaching out and deciding what it is that you want. And sometimes like that's a process that you can actually be inspired by the people around you. I have a few very close friends, and I'm inspired by the work that they do. I'm inspired by the paths that they have taken, the hard work that they've put in. And so these are, we text each other, we share our challenges, we share our joys. And so I think it would be really helpful to talk about like, you like friends, like how are they part of the community? Like who are we talking about?
Absolutely. And I think that you want to really channel diverse perspectives. You don't want everyone from just the industry that you currently work in. You don't want everyone at the same level that you currently are at. So it really is being mindful about a mixture of diverse perspectives. Um, Possibly, and I encourage this, perspectives that even differ from yours. So let's get into who are the 5 people that you really want part of your career community. So first and foremost, you want someone who's a cheerleader. I did not grow up cheerleading, but I know what a cheerleader is, and you feel good when people are screaming for you, right? If they say, Dahlia, that was awesome. Rachel, go you, right? Like that's who you want in your corner. So that might be someone that knows your work already. You want a cheerleader, someone who's going to support you, someone when you reach out to and say, hey, I'm thinking about this new idea or this new business venture, they're going to be like, yeah, you'd be amazing at that. Your strengths are, aligned, your values are aligned. And for me, my cheerleader is my former manager of 8 years. I get on the phone with her and I'm energized. She makes me think bigger than what I'm already thinking. And that holds so much value for me. So that's number one. Can you think of a cheerleader for yourself, Dahlia?
Um, I mean, actually, like my parents.
Amazing. Okay.
um, my parents are really big cheerleaders. Martine, who you all just met, he's a really big cheerleader for me. When I'm doing is focusing on like what I'm doing wrong. They're like, "Are you kidding me? Like, look at like we have so much faith in you. Look at what you've already done. We know that you have so much inside of you. Like, yeah, they're my cheerleaders."
Amazing. So then on the flip side of that, it's a thoughtful critic is number 2. So somebody who challenges you, right? The person that, you might reach out to and say, I'm going through something at work and I just need somebody's outside perspective, someone that, you probably don't report to, somebody who might not be on your direct team. And you say, I'm thinking about approaching it this way. And they say, I'm open to are you open to feedback? Are you open to being challenged? And, I want to pause for a second and say, you might not always be open to being challenged, and that's okay. But that's where the flexibility comes in. That's when you can sort of say, okay, who's the right person to call in for this? I work with a lot of people who, find roadblocks in their job search, right? And I say to a lot of these people, who can you call right now? Who knows you, who you've built a relationship with, and have them give you some honest feedback about what you might want to be doing differently. And most of the time, the room stays silent for a long time. So I would argue that thoughtful critic is probably the one person in this group of 5 that most people do not have. So think about that, right? Who might be that thoughtful critic?
Mhm.
Okay.
But before we go on away from thoughtful critic, the only thing I'm going to add is like, I think criticism is one of the hardest things, especially I think for the people who connect with a lot of the messaging that I do. And this is a person that you actually feel safe with,
Yes.
right? So I don't want constructive criticism from every single person, or it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get it, but when I'm actively seeking for my own growth, then I'm gonna go to that person who, I feel very lucky. I have a couple of those people who, they will also sense when I'm so fragile that I just really do need a hug. But like they'll say like, how would it feel if I, gave you an alternative?
Exactly. And this is somebody who probably also, as you get to know them, really does lead from a heart space, right? Someone who can tune into your own energy and say, hey, Dahlia, do you want an alternate idea right now? Or do you just want
Okay.
to bed? Yeah. That is the real thoughtful critic. And that is, you know, and again, sometimes I'm actually having this conversation. I'm thinking, wow, I actually have another thoughtful critic, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
That's the power in this, is that it really serves you. So I love that. That makes so much sense. So the other two people that I'll mention quickly are a know-it-all. So somebody who is an industry expert
Uh-huh.
to where it is you want to go, or the place that you currently are working in. And when I say know-it-all, I mean it in the most complimentary way. Somebody who just has their pulse, has the pulse of where the industry is going. So if you're actively job seeking, this is somebody who can say, hey, I know that there's a lot of growth in, I work with a lot of digital marketing professionals. There's a lot of growth in artificial intelligence and digital marketing. Have you heard of this organization? You should check out their resources. So somebody, when you're looking for sort of new ideas, maybe you've hit a roadblock and you're like, I just like don't know where else to look for opportunity. That's the kind of person you want to tap for that.
Um,
Yeah. And then fourth, a connector. These are my favorite people. These are the people that you get on the phone with, you get on a Zoom call with in pre-COVID days, you met in a coffee shop or for lunch, you sit down, you tell them something and they say, you should be talking to this person.
I got a guy.
Yeah, I got a guy.
Right.
These are the people that I think, especially for individuals that don't feel comfortable, and trust me, I'm one of these people, reaching out coldly to someone on LinkedIn, or just feels that that idea of networking is so inauthentic to them. The idea of that connector does that work for you. So somebody in your career community that is open to connecting you, is so empowering, because it also helps you realize they value your work, right? And for you to feel that, to build your confidence, oh, that person can give you so much. How does that land for you, Dahlia, in your own work?
Um, yeah, I think that it's not only just about like the people who I'm closest to, but also like who I follow. And so for instance, like if I want to know, in my synagogue world, if I want to know like what are some of the cool things that are going on in synagogues, I'm going to look at some key players who I really respect, and I'm going to
Mhm.
see what are they doing, what are they investing their time in, where are they taking their communities. And so I kind of look to them, and then I also, so it's funny, where I was an intern, when I was a rabbinical intern, I still get their emails. Like I get their emails. I want to know what they're doing. I really respect the rabbis who are there. And so, I stay in tune with them, and it helps me, it gives me just like a little bit of guidance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And by the way, I'm realizing that some of my people serve multiple purposes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And these people don't have to necessarily be individuals either. I've had folks that I've worked with throughout the years who use an association, right? Like a group of a networking group or a group of friends, and they'll say, all of these people are my connectors, right? And so it isn't necessarily an individual person, and an individual person can serve multiple, roles on your career community. And that sort of does bring me to the last person, which is the safety net. Especially in the time we're living in now, you need one person that you can feel like you can just vent to. And I don't mean to underscore a negative here, but with the times that we're living in, the amount of stress, the amount of expectation that many of us have on us in our careers and our personal lives coming together, you need someone who gets it and gets you. And I'll give my example. I have had someone who's sort of grown up with me in my own career. We had similar roles starting out in higher education, and we hadn't talked for a while. And I realized that when I moved to the virtual space, he actually had a baby too at the same time, similar to me. And we both were going through the same stuff, right? And I said to him, like, would you be open to just like chatting and catching up? We caught up for like an hour, and it was somewhat of a vent session, but it served me, right? Like it served me in that moment. And I realized that it cleared blocks for me. It cleared this negative energy. And he said, did that feel like weirdly therapeutic and
Cleansing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, it did, and we ended up setting up monthly half-hour catch-ups, and we do vent and be transparent, but we also build each other up. And it's because we have a high level of trust with each other. We don't work together anymore. So we can just be honest. So somebody who just really gets you and gets maybe what some of the different areas of your life that you're going through. So that's the fifth person, that safety net person.
Really powerful. It's
Yeah.
really, really powerful. So, okay, so we're talking about this. Like, do you have any suggestions for how people can keep track of this? Like, what's kind of going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, honestly, I've seen people do it in all different ways. But I do have, an easy sort of worksheet where you can map out, who's already in my career community, right? Who are people that I already know that fill some of these roles. And, I think what this worksheet can help you do too is where are the gaps? And I think that's the biggest piece for people is that they get themselves in a situation and they realize, oh, I don't like really have someone that I can go to for